One of the problems, one of the large problems with how this gas has been developed has been the frantic pace of development has allowed the gas companies to do this in a way that is sloppy and very dangerous. And that's all justified by this idea that we need this gas for our national security. And we need to be energy independent in our country, but actually we are energy independent. We have about 50 years of gas in the ground in our country. The big gas producers in the world, much larger than us, are in Qatar, Iran, and Russia, and they have 100 years of gas. And we're doing something that is very foolhardy now, which is because of the sanctions on Russia and because of the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, Europe is being forced to buy American gas, and that is a boom to companies like Cabot, which are selling it to them. Normally, American gas to get to Europe has to be frozen first through liquefied natural gas, and it's much more expensive than building a pipeline. So the Russians have a big competitive advantage against the American gas companies because they can build a pipeline through Ukraine, through Poland, and in other way, and through Sweden into Europe and sell their product cheap in Europe. But the sanctions and the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline mean that Russian gas is no longer cheap Russian gas. The sanctions against Russia and the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline mean that cheap Russian gas is no longer available in Europe, and the Europeans have to buy American gas. And they're going to buy it at a premium because we have to freeze it first and then ship it over there. And it has really destroyed the industrial base of Europe. That expensive gas means their industries can't compete anymore. And a lot of Germany's industries are now, Germany is being deindustrialized because of it. Germany is being deindustrialized because of the sanctions and the laws of the Nord Stream gas and the laws of the Nord Stream gas. But what does it mean for the United States? What it means is that is he in the shot?
I just went to a single when we had a break.
Okay.
Should I go to two?
No, I didn't, because if you're in your pockets, that's a distraction.
No, I'm not single.
Okay, but it's just what you're doing me.
Yes,
And we can hear that plastic, whatever's going on with that.
Okay. If we were foresighted about our energy policy, we would be preserving it because that's how we can have cheap industrial production in this country, and we can have an industry that is competitive with the rest of the world. We have 50 years of gas, and that's a very good cushion for it. But right now, because we're producing it so quickly, and because the wells last a lot, because the wells do not last as long as the industry predicted. Let me do that again. If we had foresight in this country, we would preserve our gas supply to keep America energy self-sufficient. Why is that important? Because it makes American industrial production competitive with the rest of the world. If we can produce our own gas here, we have 50 years of gas, enough to supply all of our needs in energy and industrial production in this country and really build a new industrial base in America. But this rapid development of the gas is causing that 50-year cushion to shrink to 25 years and maybe even less, maybe 10 or 15 years. The other problem is the wells, which were supposed to last 50 years, we're finding that now they're exhausted. They wane very quickly, much more quickly than was predicted by the industry. So the gas reserves that we have in this country are actually much less than was originally predicted, and we are using them at a frantic pace, at a pace that is not going to help America over the long run. It's going to make us dependent in a decade or so on Iranian gas, on Russian gas, and on gas from Qatar. And that's gonna put America at the mercy of the rest of the world. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, Bobby, as you know, it was trapped in America called the Henry Hub price that kept it low, and it actually was good for the industry because it would stabilize the price. When they started overproducing, they crashed their own price.
Tell what that bill did, that law did.
Yeah, so what happened was, well, President Trump opened for export, that's the first time
It was illegal to export.
before, yeah, Trump was lifted it because it was put in, even before Obama. Because they knew that if they let them free.
Just explain what that law said.
Yeah, so the Henry Hub price said that gas produced in North America had to stay here. It was not, we weren't exporting. And as you may know, when this all started, there was about 32 import terminals. All of our gas was being imported. Then they changed the map. FERC looked at it. They were going to make 40 export terminals. They're only at 4 so far. They cost about $8 to $10 billion each, so it's a lot of big investment. The crazy one was Cove Point. They're shipping Cove Point gas to Japan and India. Find me a further away part on this planet. They got to put it in ship, go all the way around through the canal, the Panama Canal, and back to. That's 10,000 miles, and you know they leak. That what they have to do to keep cool in there is spray methane out while they're riding. They said if they had a catastrophic explosion there, it would shatter the windows in D.C. 50 miles away. One of those tankers that has the 3 big globes on the top. That is a massive explosion. They've had it happen in other countries, smaller scale, but these are huge. It actually should never be built there because it's too close to the U.S. Capitol. But that export, it's crazy. America's fuel, and then you're watching us build to send it elsewhere. It's not America's fuel.
Well, tell what happened. We had a law for many years
Yes.
that made it illegal to export American gas because we wanted to keep it here to support our industrial base.
Stabilized price, industrial base. It was very cheap for the companies to use it. Their gas prices have gone up 3 or 4, like ours will, 3 or 4 times higher than they were, just because we have to compete with other countries willing to pay a much higher rate for the liquefied gas. And it's 600 times condensed at minus 259 degrees. It's insane. Now even worse, they have ships that actually will bring the gas directly into them, liquefy them on site, and go offload it. Those are the biggest ships in the world now. My dad told me about this, the Panama Canal being widened before he died in 2007. He knew about it. Why? Well, these are the largest ships in the world, so they had to widen it. They knew this was coming, and they were going to be transporting it through the canal system, so they had to make them wider.
So, what was the name of the bill again? It was the Henry.
Henry Hub is the name of the standard price for all North American supply. That trapped it here, kept prices stable for the companies, kept prices low for us, but we had an abundance of it. As soon as they started exporting, price skyrockets, and then it becomes very unstable because, as you know, they put these wells in here, and the majority of the gas comes out in the first 2 years. 80% of the gas comes out in the first 2 years. So rapid. They used to let flaring happen here, so that's what they would do. The pressure was so high they'd light it on fire. They're not allowed to do it anymore. Now they're just venting it into the air, which is also illegal. So they're violating the law to follow the law. They really have to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, so during the Trump administration, they changed the rule and allowed the export of U.S. natural gas. That harmed our country because it harms the capacity of American industry to compete with industries around the globe. And it's good for the gas producers. And the Ukraine war is very good for the gas producers.
And except for pipelines, Bobby, here's the problem with a pipeline. They sit in a corporate boardroom like this, and they put a point here, and they draw it straight across to the other side, and they don't care who's in the middle. One of the problems is there's Republicans, Democrats, Independents, there's everybody in the way. And then they take it. They tried it on my property. They came to use eminent domain. I pulled out the Fifth Amendment at the PUC hearing, and they lost because they could not provide a public benefit. It was going straight from here to Albany and then straight down to Port Ambrose Export Terminal, which never got built. So we found out if you kill the pipelines, which we've been very good at, stopping the pipelines, you saw what happened with they named it the Constitution Pipeline. We went, oh. So Veer and I, is here, we just went along the route, and we educated them. The first one was at Sydney Center Library. Sean Lennon showed up because their farm is 15 miles from there. He went, huh? So everyone got involved. We just warned everybody, and the uproar was so big. The worst thing was our neighbors here, the Hollerns, they had a maple syrup farm. And so I'm talking pipelines because that's the only way they can get it to the coast. So they have a maple syrup farm, and Constitution Pipeline took their property by force. Pennsylvania gave the go-ahead to use eminent domain before New York, which had 100 miles of this pipeline. We only had 25. New York would not approve it, so they threatened everybody here. They sent armed federal agents, M16s, I've got pictures here, on the property to Holland to get out of the way while we chop all your maple trees down that they made $50,000 a year as a business, maple syrup, before New York ever approved it. So how did we stop that? I took the photographs of them coming with machine guns on this property, and I met with the Attorney General of New York, and I said, are you really gonna let this happen here? And they said, no. So the company came in begging to let them do it. We cut all the trees down in Pennsylvania already. You have to let us have it. And they looked at them and said, why did you even move forward with this before we said yes? We have 100 miles here. That's how forward thinking they are. Their job is just to mow down everybody. They actually convinced citizens of New York to cut their own trees down because it was outside the time they could legally do it. And many people went out with their chainsaws and cut the whole path down for them. And they never built the pipeline. So those trees, Bobby, were left laying here, rotting. Nobody used the wood. I had a 115 acre property. Our value of our timber, dive bombs, because when they're cutting down millions of acres of trees, they're dumping on the market. It's the same with the gas price. We used to be able to pay our taxes every couple of years, have a cut done on it. No, they chopped so many trees down. My forester said, you'd have to pay me to pick it up now. Nobody's gonna pay you for this timber. I don't care what it was, cherry or anything, it was overloaded. So they're in the problem, and when they drill so fast and produce so fast, it kills their own business. That's why Cabot had to be merged with Civirex from Colorado. Now they're Coterra with Earth. Do you know why? Cabot was broke. They're the number 2 driller in the Commonwealth, right? And we're the second largest oil or gas producer behind Texas. How do you fail when you have that? Well, what? They overproduced and killed their own market. I mean, it's literally, we've seen gas down as low as pennies per thousand when it used to be.
That's why they needed a war in Europe.
I believe that's why the pipeline was blown up underneath the ocean. Why? Because you're right, Australia was offering gas for $9 a thousand. It cost 16 to get to a point and sell it to somebody. Who's gonna buy it at 16 a country if they can get it for 9 from Australia and $8 from Russia? Well, see, that's not our problem. You can't poison US citizens to send cheap gas to other countries, because that's exactly what they're doing. And it's unabated. We talked about that. There's Governor Wolf right down the street when he was running for office, right there. He was running, went and asked all these people permission. Scott's right there, you just talked to, and he promised that if he got elected, he would come and solve this problem for everybody. Well, he did get elected. You know how many times he came here? 0. You know how many times we begged him to come back? 0. This corruption part, my dad died in 2007. He was a worldwide travel agent. He saw the destruction of the oil and gas industry all over all these countries. He said, never sign a lease. And this was a really hard right conservative guy. But he said, they are the devil. They come into the area, and the first thing they do, suitcases full of money. They buy all the lawyers, judges, and politicians. I'd like to say that isn't true. We've been doing tours for 14 years. You came 10 years ago and saw this. It's a lot worse now. We've been doing tours for 14 years. You want to make a guess how many local, county, state, or federal elected officials or representatives as taxpayers has ever been on our tour? You guess 0. It would be the right number. This is the member of parliament from Europe that's right here in front of Ray, standing right here in this house. That was back in 2013. First thing he asked was, where's your elected officials? So we always hand them a sheet that says, here's all their numbers, the names. Call them up. They've never been here. You know who was most affected? The South African member of parliament that came. He goes, wait a minute, I flew from across the world to be here to see this, and your local, county, state, and federal elected officials that you elected, or that elected to represent you, were never here? No. That's where the corruption is. My dad says when you make health and safety with politics, and he was a 63-year first responder and wearing his flight jacket, longest serving Civil Air Patrol member in the history of the Civil Air Patrol. He said when you mix health and safety with politics, Bobby, everyone dies. I don't care what bubonic plague, AIDS, doesn't matter what you're dealing with, but when you play politics, we can't get involved in that. It's so bad, the former senator that represented this area, our area, was Gene Yaw. He's the chair of the ERE committee in Pennsylvania, the Environmental Resource Engineering Committee. He has held up any kind of help that we could get. So now he changed his district over, and we got Lisa Baker. She's from the Delaware River area. I've called and begged for them to come. You got new constituents, they have problems, can you come? They will not come. She will not come. You cannot do it. Even the Democrats in Pennsylvania don't want to be seen as helping. They have to quite. When I heard this, I called his campaign. They said, thank you for sending him. They said he wasn't there. There's a picture of him there. They refused to acknowledge that he'd even come to Victoria Schweitzer's house down the street that you went to with the people that you came. That's a trouble when you go. I mean, here's the good news. The Democrats are up by one seat, and they have all the chairs. So what did Ray and I do? We made 50 Zoom calls with them. If we can, the Speaker of the House is the first woman Speaker of the House. She spent an hour on the phone 3 days after she got put in, and she said, I don't have an hour for my own family, but she spent an hour with Ray and Lee and I, and she said, I want to come. First woman, and she's also a woman of color to represent in 240 years Pennsylvania. So when she comes, it causes a lot of trouble. So our focus is education. There's our friend Randy Moyer. He worked in the industry for only 4 months. He got sick. He got barium in his blood, and nobody would diagnose him, Bobby. It's worse than ever. My dad said when you own the first responders, you own the world. That our doctors, they told Ray he had COPD, not silicosis of the lungs. They won't diagnose anybody correctly. Randy just passed 2 years ago. He died horribly after 10 years of living like that. All barium in his blood. They didn't know how he was still standing. The workers, they put at the most risk. You know that. They're on the front lines. Ray got sick, 7 cancer surgeries from working around the water. Randy, 4 months driving a water truck, and he got so sick. He was pulling his teeth out with it. We'd be at a party, he just yanked his molars out without any anesthetic. It's sickening to watch how badly they treat the workers. 28 injuries per 100,000. It's the most dangerous job in the planet. And it was so sickening. My dad would never sign a lease. He died, and 10 weeks later, they went and signed my 95-and-a-half-year-old grandmother in a nursing home who did not own the property. They stole my mineral rights. They stole our mineral rights. These guys are snakes. They come to the door promising the moon. They will lie to have you sign it, and as soon as you sign, they disappear, and then your water goes bad. And then who do they want you to call? It's so bad, Ray Baby said it earlier. The DEP has given up the testing for this area. It will not test water. They let Moody's, who lied to the Mannings, lied to the Jessica and her family, they're letting the wolf guard the sheep, and that is not how it works. So we're so tired of the corruption. I mean, look at, that's the Insurance Journal, a national magazine. Look at what their headline: fracking companies silence water complaints with sealed settlements. That's from 2013. They've been doing it ever since. Everybody in this whole area is on non-disclosure agreements. That's why Jessica they won't sign anything to get water. Because as soon as you sign it, it says you're giving up your right to call a lawyer, to get the press involved, or call for the elected officials. We're sick of it. We're hoping that you can highlight that. Number one is, where is Josh Shapiro? He prosecuted the company, found them guilty, but he took 9 felonies and 6 misdemeanors and dropped them all to 1 misdemeanor. If they would have gotten 1 charge of a felony, they'd be out of business here. And so he let them continue. That day, Bobby, they let them sign the agreement to let them drill underneath this. The same day we won, yay! We're with him, Ray's shaking his hand, we're all shaking his hand. We win, and then we find out they threw everybody right under the bus. He's never been here. He went to our courthouse, which is only 15 minutes from here. He would not come here. He said his last. He was the Attorney General, now Governor Shapiro. So our focus is, it's not safe. Nobody's following the rules. We call DEP, don't expect protection. Geniaw defunds them. Every year they get less and less money to do a much bigger job because there's a lot of wells. So what we're raising, barium, lithium, this is from Scott Perry, who ran the oil and gas. Vera sent him an email that said, why can't they drill in on top or underneath this area? Because Cabot has not yet demonstrated that the water supplies have returned to background conditions. That's from the head of oil and gas. They know it. That well right across 500 feet from here, they have it locked open. In their agreement, they're going to seal 18 wells, cement 18 wells shut it here. They can't do it because they can't even close the well heads because the pressure would build back up, and that's how they reopen. They told them they just had them lock their wells open, no pressure build up, so you're not going to get the same problem. So it's a game. DEP's job is not to protect them. They used to get $500 per well pad when they went. Now it's $5,000 per well. So the one up the street you saw that has 16 wells going on it, that's $90,000 they're supposed to get. Where's the money going? It's not going to the victims. Once your water's contaminated and you come forward like Ray, they destroy you. They will send everybody after you. There was signs back then all the way down 29 that Cabot gave to people's front yards that says, Dimock, where the water is safe and the people are friendly. Sure they are. I mean, these are the same people that when Mayor Matt Ryan, two-term elected mayor in Binghamton, offered to bring water because nobody would. He went to the meeting that they had, that was on December 5th, the day before the Water for Dimock rally. He shows up to say, I have a truck ready. All I have to do is you have to sign an agreement that, there's no liability issues because it's coming across state lines. They told him they told him, leave, get out of here. They would have hung us from the rafters if there wasn't news cameras there. Bobby, we used to be able to call, but up to 2013, you could dial up news groups, and you'd have 5 of them in the front yard of the Manning. We got 5 cameras in the Manning front yard in a half an hour. They ran to it. Then they stopped coming. So I called up our favorite reporter, Joe Holden, who was a local guy for WBNG, or for WBRE. I called him up, Joe, where are you guys at? And he goes, call my manager. Called the station manager. And the station manager said, listen, one more bad story about the industry, they pulled their millions of dollars of advertising from us. So just like the pharmaceutical industry, as you know, they can't sell pharmaceutical to you and I. They have to be put to, through a prescription from a doctor. What they're doing is buying the influence of the people that advertise. So our focus is, these people need help. And the lawyers here, nobody will help you. They don't want to go up against them. So if we don't have our elected officials, we don't have the lawyers, and the judge had to be thrown off, asked to leave off Ray's case. You know who Ray got to do that? The letter was written by the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. He looked at 6 years in discovery and went, wrote a letter, and our judge sat on 5 boards with the person who made the complaint against Ray. This is how bad it is. So Ray says, there's one set of laws for them. They go by here doing 70 miles an hour in their vehicles. If you and I did that, it's 35 out here. They can break every law. Governor Wolf they told them, leave the trucks alone. The trucks have killed hundreds of people in Pennsylvania. Their truck traffic alone has killed hundreds of people, and nobody's being held accountable. We asked the state police directly, where's the list? How many people were killed, injured, and property damaged? You know what they told us? Go away. We're not sharing that information. If they knew of that alone, we'd stop the drilling because their trucks are fairly dangerous, and the drivers too. So you being here, this is what we need. We need exposure. We need somebody to tell the story that people will listen to. We know your background. You've already been here. This is a return. So first of all, I want to thank you personally. Ray and I asked you 100 days ago, and you came. And so we've been asking all these elected officials to come for years, and they will not come because they cannot be seen to this. We need a leader. We need somebody that will tell the story, and we need Josh Shapiro, our governor. If he sees this, get over here, Shapiro. What are you doing? You prosecuted them. That was from Ray and I's meeting back on May 4th, 2017. We got a meeting that started 6 grand juries, largest criminal investigation in the history of Commonwealth, Pennsylvania, and there's still people living without clean water. It's insane. My dad served, my brother, my sister-in-law, 120 years of military service in my family, and to watch the way they treat former veterans like Ray, a disabled American veteran living on poverty level money, and we have to haul water every Sunday with Ray. But you know what? When our Republican governor stopped the deliveries to this community, I bought a water truck. Ray and I picked it out. We put a tank on the back, and we started delivering to prove. So we have to do. The citizens have to take this back, and we have to force our elected officials to do something about it. And I have a feeling if things go the right way this year, that we're going to have hopefully somebody in the White House that will listen to the victims and respond accordingly, because this doesn't work for us anymore. Ray has 4 types of uranium in his water, and that's from the DEP testing. So our goal and focus is to expose this. And what Ray and I did, Pennsylvania wouldn't listen. So we went to 13 state houses. We were able to meet with 11 sitting governors. We've never met our governors. They will not sit down and meet with us, barely. So it's really interesting. Tax-paying citizens here in Pennsylvania and Texas, you don't do this in Texas either. You don't challenge the what's going on. What you do is I take the message. Florida said no because of Ray and I. Maryland said no because of Ray and I and our team here of people. New York, we went to North Carolina, Virginia. Lee went with us. 42-year master driller. You want to shut the politician up? And they go, where's the science? And you have a guy that did the work for 42 years. Look at them and they say, Maryland asks, Can you do it safely? No, it's impossible to poke holes in the earth. Bobby, when they drill that first hole, the earth tries to choke itself closed, so they pour biocide, and we believe they're using glyphosate now because that's the most, they can't use it anywhere else. They're dumping it down into the earth, and then they send thousands of gallons of hydrochloric acid. That's where the kids are getting burned in the tub. If there's any leakage, a little bit of hydrochloric acid in the tub. We're not thinking about 7 generations. Lee is a tribal elder. We're not doing that. I live my grandchildren are the 8th generation owner of the home that I'm living in right now, my dad's side. I'm already thinking way ahead of 7. I want to pass them a house they can actually drink the water and come and visit. And there's no way to do it here. But we're not giving up, I'll tell you right now. Your visits and others that have come, Ray has had over 400 elected officials come from just New York alone here. And they learned their lesson when they made their decision. It wasn't because they're NIMBYs. They came here and saw it firsthand. So if we could get anything out of this, is to tell these politicians, what are you afraid of? You can't be bought by others because we already bought you. The citizens pay for their salary. That's the only people that get to buy an elected official. If they want to work for the oil and gas industry, go get a job with them. Resign their position and get somebody that stands up for the people, right? You're not supposed to be able to buy a politician because we already pay their salary and that's all they get. If you don't like it, go to work somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you continue?
Yeah, we're gonna do a few more questions.
Do you doing, and I'll just knock
Okay,
this off.
okay, so
Hold on.
the first one of these is a sound bite. I'm just asking for your knowledge here. So,
Wait, I'll tell you what. Just don't, yeah, thank you.
okay, so this area, tell me, is it the largest reserves, or what does it have that makes it so attractive? Tell me just the factual, the methane that's here. What is here?
It's been described as the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. It has the largest gas pocket they've ever found anywhere on the planet. Is right underneath Ray's house. He's in the middle of this 9 square mile area. It's been off limits to the company for over 14 years because the government said they couldn't drill on or underneath it. So that's $3.5 billion they estimate of methane sitting underneath this spot, and they wanted it, and so they got it. That was the deal made by the governor, Shapiro.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me stop you there. Okay, so we left off, they can't drill in this certain amount of square miles, and what's new is that now they're drilling under it horizontally. So explain what's changed. You guys supposedly won. So what happened? What's changed and what are they doing now? And how, so just that precise question, not a
Yes.
long story, just that.
Yes. Just so you know, November 4th, 2009, the government stopped them from drilling on or underneath this area because of the damage to the water table. Then three more consent orders. Finally, it was sealed on December 15, 2010. They cannot drill here until they fix the problem or get the methane levels down. That never happened. So it floated along. Under 3 governors, they could not lift it. Even our Republican Tom Corbett could not lift it with the governor's power, could not lift this. Then it gets to Wolf. 8 years, does nothing until the last month and a half, the Democrat, and on the way out, he lets the DEP lift it on the exact same day we win in court on November 29, 2022. We're shaking the governor-elect hand. Yay, we won. They admitted guilt. That's the first time ever that a company's admitted to poisoning of water anywhere in the United States, ever. They always settle on the courthouse steps. They never go in and admit that. But they let them do it to a misdemeanor. And they pled no contest, not even we're guilty, just no contest. That gets done, we have a big party, and the next day we find out that the same day that happened, we're all excited, the DEP signed to let them start drilling. Those well pads, those 5 giant ones we saw around here, they're gonna put at least 20 wells coming into the most contaminated area, probably in the world, or one of them, with this subject, because nobody just lets people continue doing it. It's already screwed up. This is the 3 Mile Island, or we're talking like Love Canal. It's the same stuff. You're like, okay.
Okay, so define DEP.
Department of Environmental Protection, here's the mission statement.
Now, just for the viewer, say DEP is, and say what it is.
DEP is the regulatory authority over oil and gas drilling, and they answer directly to the governor. There is no elected position. It's an appointed position. So when he puts somebody in, they can either ignore it like they've done for years or do something about it. They've ignored it.
Okay, so, but after this event happened, 2022, right?
November 29, 2022 was the day of infamy that now is the day that they reopened the drilling underneath.
Okay, excuse me, sorry, yes, they reopened the drilling. So now, what is gonna happen? You said there's 20 wells have been permitted, they're gonna drill horizontally under the forbidden area, but they're getting away with it because it's not down in front.
Correct.
Just explain the
Can't
logistics.
surface
briefly.
drill. Surface drill is what you saw with the rig when we drove past the one that was way up on the top of the hill. So that's the surface, they drilled down, right? They're not allowed to do that still, but they went around the edge. Isn't it interesting, in the last 2 years, they built these 5 pads right up against it. Would you ever do that if you couldn't drill this way? You can only drill 180? No, you wouldn't. So they obviously knew 2 years ago when they started building these that they were gonna get, it was gonna get lifted somehow. That was the key. So the fix was in, we already knew it. I mean, this didn't, and if they would have told Ray and his neighbors when they met, they had a secret meeting over at Elk Lake School with the Attorney Generals a week before the court date on the 22nd of November instead of the 29th. And they put tables over the windows. So I went over there just to see what was going on, and the law enforcement guys from Attorney General's office came up, hey, get out of here. Like, I can't be there. You're like, so Ray and all of them said if they were told they were going to lift this moratorium, they would have told Attorney General Shapiro, Governor-elect Shapiro, to take his deal and walk. Right. We're not interested.
Okay, so now that they're gonna start drilling again, 20 wells, did you say? So say, how many wells and what, and if it was this bad before and all these stories were heard about people's water, what happens when they drill 20 wells?
Well, I will tell you a story when they shut off the drilling here in 2010. No more drilling. But in the document it said they had already drilled and bored 7 wells that were trapped in there. So they said, okay, we're gonna let you finish those. Finishing is fracking. That means they had not yet put the pressure down there. So they let them do it. They did 6 of them. And by the time they were done, Ray's and everybody else's water in this area went 100 times worse than what happened in 2008 originally. They blew the whole area out. I mean, literally, his water was bad before then. It started coming out looking like carbonated diarrhea, smelling like a dead skunk. So now if that happened, and that was late 2012, early 2013, the guy up over the hill, Ken Morcom, he's been getting water delivered for 10 years as of last month, every day, or every month from paid for by Cabot. Why would you, that's about $400,000 of water deliveries to a guy who they didn't mess up his water. I mean, that's kind of interesting. So when they paid off the area here on the original consent order agreement, they paid $4.23 million out to 19 families, okay? And some of them went to the Water for Dimock rally, and there's nothing wrong with the water. And I said, then did you cash the $400,000 check they gave you? Rarely does somebody pay you. So I asked them to put a $500,000 check in my mailbox, and I'll be quiet about something that never happened too. So that's the key. We try to look at the absurdity and we throw it out there, so even the layperson goes, hey, something doesn't smell right here. So that's the key is, it's not perception, it's really happening to people. You saw that. Look at Bobby. You saw what happened to Bobby, especially Jessica, and then you had.
Let me stop you.
Tanya.
Did you need to say something? Okay.
No, I was just gonna say it later.
Okay. All right. I just got to
follow up after Craig.
I just got a couple more that we got to cover. Just,
Yeah.
Please just try to just. Okay. So, the childhood cancers, the illnesses. We've met a lot of interesting people that told us about how they suffered. But can you just tell us about how widespread the health issues are?
We don't know.
And
So
okay, yeah.
there's the documentation, okay? Why I'm interested in this, I lost both parents, all 4 grandparents, 14 immediate family members to cancer of all type in the last 45 years. I mean, it's devastated my family. This killed me. This came out, this is 2016, 17, and 18 data for hospitalizations for cancer for children under 18 and under. So I get the document, I start looking through, and I go, right there. Number 1, hospitalizations for leukemia, okay? And there's the amount. Almost half the kids that they had for hospitalization. What's number 2 saying? Other and unspecified. Well, there's rare cancers like Ewing sarcoma, glioblastoma, all these super rare cancers. There is 27 cases in one school district in southwestern PA in Washington County called the Cannon-Mac School District. I asked the ATSDR, the government's toxicology people, what's the odds of 27 cases of the rarest form of cancer, one of them, Ewing sarcoma, in a school district in a rural county in southwestern PA? 1 trillion to 1, they said. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. So we asked for more data. The new one's coming for 19, 20, and 21, but it's still being done. So we're about 6 years behind on reporting, and this is just hospitalizations. Here's the question I asked. I talked to the guy who's head of the Department of Health Cancer, Dr. Ma, for epidemiology, and I go, hey, so We're not worried about where they go to the hospital. Where did they live when they were diagnosed? Here's why. When you're in Southwest PA, you can go to Ohio or West Virginia very easily across the border to go to a hospital. When we're up here, we can go to New York State. When you're on the other side, you can go to New York or New Jersey. So we don't care about hospitalizations. We care about where did the person live when they were diagnosed. It's all hidden. You cannot get that information in Pennsylvania. You know why? Because somebody saw it and went, what? I mean, they went, You know what we were told when we asked them to look into this? Dr. Ma, head of epidemiology, said, we're being told by the governor, Wolf at the time, we can't work on this. We have to work on the opioid epidemic. And I go, okay, wait a minute. What does that have to do with cancer, except for you use drugs, pain medicines, where you use opioids to do that. So there's the key. This is so shocking to me, and they won't fess up. There is the story from the Greene County Messenger talking about the cases of sarcoma, and what's really finding now is they're running people are running little ads that say, please help fundraise for our 5-year-old with a brain tumor. If we went around the Commonwealth to look at it, number one thing to do in the Commonwealth right now is chemotherapy. They've opened 100 cancer centers all over this place, and nobody wants to know. So for my dad being a first responder, that's the first thing you look at. Why are we opening cancer centers? And you know who helps pay for opening the cancer center? The industry. Their name is on our hospital, our brand new hospital. Cabot Oil and Gas is on the wing when you walk up. You think Ray wants to be dragged to the Cabot Oil and Gas Hospital, but they're the ones that got him sick at the first place? No. So what I said earlier is true. They have taken over law enforcement. Our sheriffs and our police, local police, they work off hours for the industry guarding their well sites. So do you work for me or do you work for the industry? Because we're not it's kind of commingled. So that shouldn't even be illegal to do. And the state police, you saw this. This is the most egregious one right here that I showed. Not that one. Here it is. I mean, that guy came in town for his sister's wedding. That is a master sergeant in the Marines that came up from Camp Lejeune, and when he got here on Friday night, he took his dad's Durango out, and it had his dad's rifle in the back. He didn't know the back of it. And then that hill we came down to 29 before we went and went like that into Springville, that hill's really steep. There's a water truck parked waiting to turn, another water truck parked. He comes down his Dodge Durango, parks behind it, waiting for the guy to take off, and over that hill comes a guy way too fast, didn't know what he was doing. He hits the Durango, crushes like a beer can, it explodes, lights on fire, and burns that man beyond recognition with that beautiful family, and then they just tried to let the driver walk. No charges were filed. You know why they were filed? Because the commander of Camp Lejeune called the FBI and the federal government and said, you will prosecute someone.